It looked like he had just been born alive and left to die. They haven't investigated these deaths. They haven't gotten a proper burial. As a progressive, I'm perfectly positioned to really point out the hypocrisy there, silence the work of critical life-saving pregnancy centers. Aborted babies inside, 110 of them were packaged in small whirl packs.
And welcome to the Ever Living Podcast. We are your life-loving hosts, Cindy.
And Jessica.
And today we have a exciting guest. Pow, pow, pow! It's the president of PAAU, Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising. Her name is Terrisa Bukovinac. Welcome, Terrisa.
Thank you so much, Cindy. It's such an honor to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here. So tell us, it looks like you're outside. Where are you right now?
Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania on my way to New Jersey. I am collecting signatures for my upcoming U.S. congressional campaign. I'm running as an independent to run ads depicting abortion victims that I myself recovered and photographed, and to show people the truth about abortion during the 2026 midterms. And I'm doing it in New Jersey so that I can have access to the New York City media market, which is the largest media market in the world. And I'll have the opportunity to run ads against AOC's campaign in New York.
Wow. So what are your plans? What's your vision?
Well, my husband, Randall Terry, many of your viewers may remember him. He is the iconic, legendary founder and leader of Operation Rescue, which was a large civil disobedience campaign on behalf of abortion victims in the 1980s and 90s. And he and I both have run for office in the past. He ran for president in 2024, as did I. And the reason that we do this type of activism is because as a federal candidate, the FCC cannot, by law, censor our ads on broadcast television. So it creates a unique opportunity for anti-abortion activists to really show the truth about abortion in a way that literally cannot be censored by law. And we're hoping to have a similar effect in the midterms, hoping to really draw attention to the fact that the Republican Party, first and foremost, which has been the only pro-life political party basically in the Western Hemisphere, is really in crisis right now. There is a pro-abortion Republican who is currently serving in the U.S. House of Representatives, Representative Keene in New Jersey, and Randall is going to run against him. It's a close race. There is an opportunity for him to lose, and he has called himself pro-choice. He has openly stated that he supports abortion at least through 20 weeks of pregnancy, and given these times, I think it's important that we're really holding the Republican Party accountable and showing them that the constituents are not going to stand for this watered down version of what it means to be pro-life or Republican. I myself, who has never identified as a Republican, I don't agree with right-wing politics at all. But obviously I oppose the Democrat Party's extremist position on abortion. And as a progressive myself, it gives me an opportunity to run ads against fellow Democrats, showing their constituents that this is not a value that Democrats should hold. And the vast majority of Democrats actually don't support extremist late-term abortion policy. Yet here we are with basically the entire party supporting abortion for any reason up until birth, even by people who aren't doctors, and really trying to silence the work of critical life-saving pregnancy centers. And I think as a progressive, I'm perfectly positioned to really point out the hypocrisy there. And that's what I plan to do.
Mm. So is that you're running as an independent? Is that why you chose that party?
Well, I'm running as an independent because I want to run ads during the general election. If I run during the primaries as a Democrat, I obviously won't get the nomination of the party, and then I won't really have an opportunity to have a direct effect on the actual general election. But this way I can run ads right up until the main election and hopefully show that we can't, through this kind of education that we can change the outcome of some of these races and do what we can to keep the House at least pro-life.
Terrisa, I think that's really awesome that you're honestly challenging these Republicans, because that's something that we actually deal with in New Hampshire as well. As there's a lot of, while there are pro-life Republicans, there's a lot of pro-choice or pro-abortion Republicans as well, and that's one thing that we've dealt with, especially even with the governor. She won't support any pro-life legislation. So I think it's really important that we have people like you that are like, no, I'm going to run against you. Actually stick to what if your party has been pro-life for years, you should be pro-life. And if you're not going to do that, you're going to be challenged. And that's
absolutely the Republican Party was built on essentially the backs of pro-life activists, on the rescue movement, and on voters who have been voting for preborn liberation all these years. And there's so much betrayal, and really the crisis is so serious right now because the Republican Party has removed the issue from their platform. We've got Vivek Ramaswamy, who just won the Republican primary in for the governor's race in Ohio. So you've got a pro-abortion Republican running against a pro-abortion Democrat. Like, we have to show that we're serious about this, and unless we're willing to let the Republican Party lose over this issue and show them that we're serious, then we've already lost, and that is just unconscionable in my view.
Terrisa, do you think the politicians are afraid to speak up against abortion? Do you think that's why?
I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons why. I think they're afraid of Trump. They're afraid of being primaried. They're afraid of, speaking up, of being marginalized, of losing a race, of, there's so many fears. People are terrified of being canceled in our culture now, and to the point where we're not even willing to stand up for what's right and what is just. And I think that the more people that can stand up and say this is wrong, the more other people their voices will be heard. And that pressure always, politicians always respond to pressure. There's a saying, like, politicians never see the light until they feel the heat. Are they really feeling the heat, or are people just going, oh, I wish you were more pro-life? Or are they really threatening the future of the party over this issue? Because if we're not, then nothing's going to change.
True.
So tell us about PAAU, Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising. How did that start?
Is that originally how you got involved in pro-life activism? Was that kind of the beginning of how you got involved in all this, or I'll let you talk?
No, it is the most recent iteration of of kind of the place that I envision myself in the pro-life movement, and the voice that I'm the other voices that I'm trying to magnify within the movement. But I did come into this movement as an atheist, as a leftist, which I remain on both accounts. And I, very frustrated with the progressive movement and their support for genocide against the unborn. It is completely, in my view, not... It's not aligned with the values of the left, of equality, nonviolence, and non-discrimination. And I first founded Pro-Life San Francisco. I thought we would just be like a club of young professionals. We would talk about pro-life issues. But I soon realized that what this movement really needed was direct action, civil disobedience. I came into this from the animal rights movement, and I saw that there were many activists literally risking arrest and challenging unjust laws through civil disobedience. And I was introduced to the writings of Dr. Martin Luther King, a letter from a Birmingham jail, Gandhi's efforts, and various other civil disobedience movements across the globe, realizing how effective these movements can be, and essentially without them we can't be effective. And so Pro-Life San Francisco kind of turned into another project where I began dabbling in some civil disobedience, and then during the 2020 election, I became the president of Democrats for Life of America. I realized there was another piece to this, that it isn't just about direct action and civil disobedience. It is also about being able to get political power for the unborn, that they're desperately losing that political power. And I saw that if I was able to really get pro-life leftists to be seen and to be a political force that we could ultimately force the pro-abortion wing of the Democrat Party out. Because if there is even a weakened relationship between the abortion industrial complex and the Democrat Party, abortion will not have any power in this country. They only have power in this country because of their toxic relationship with the Democrat Party. And so after that election cycle, I realized that, this isn't a fight just for like blue dog Democrats or, people who used to consider themselves Democrats but feel a little bit more conservative. This is an issue for progressives. This is an issue for people who align with every value of the left and are looking for solutions to our societal ills that are very left-leaning, but also recognize that the discrimination and the violence being committed against the unborn, it is not aligned with those values. And so I formed Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising. Since then, we have been at the forefront of anti-abortion civil disobedience. We've been targeted by Biden's DOJ, FBI. We had 2 activists who were imprisoned in federal prison who were pardoned by President Trump. They spent over 1.5 years in federal prison. One was serving a 5-year sentence for a totally nonviolent civil disobedience. And now, we're kind of in a rebuilding phase because we have really been targeted and although, we are not the victims of abortion, it is the unborn who are the victims. We're really, just finding our way again, coming together and putting one foot in front of the other. Abortion, back when, right before Roe was overturned, was a top issue in the nation. It was one of the top issues facing voters today. Now it's not even in the top 10 issues. Mm-hmm. And people are like losing interest in it. And almost like a lot of people used it as a trend. When it was trending, it's like, oh, I'm interested in this. But now that it's not, it's less attractive for activists. But we can't stop just because people find that it's not trending right now. We as activists have to build that trend. We have to put one foot in front of the other and continue to work for justice and wait for those moments when we really can catapult this issue right back into the stratosphere, right back where it needs to be. And I think one of the main ways that we can do that, other than continuing on building a movement for civil disobedience, is to show Republicans that we mean business and that we are willing to let them lose over this issue.
Terrisa, do you notice kind of a spirit of uncivil disobedience in our nation right now? Can you speak on that? The kind of very, not, peaceful protest or peaceful uprising that.
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean. Like if we're talking about violence towards each other, like literal physical violence, yeah, that's a serious problem. That is going to affect our ability to be successful in our endeavors. But the reality is that we have killing centers all over this country. Every community, for the most part, has a center where they are killing babies. This is not peaceful. And in my opinion, we are being too peaceful. We are not showing how angry, our anger and our actions are just not reflective of the severity of what's really going on in this country. And I think it just kind of depends, I think that so often I stand outside an abortion center and people will say, the pro-abortion people will walk by and they'll yell, F you, and they'll be really mad. And then, but pro-lifers will be like, God bless you, have a nice day. And it's like, this just isn't really helping us because they think they're right because they're more mad than us. And we just really aren't, as a movement, in my opinion, showing how serious this is through our actions and our words and just our ability to express anger. I think that, the right very often thinks of themselves as more law-abiding, more modest, nicer. I see posts all the time. It's like showing the other side and then showing our side and being like, look how much nicer we are. But it's like, it doesn't matter. If we're nicer, it only just creates a more significant divide between the two groups. We're not even talking to each other about the same thing. And how can they possibly ever understand the depths of our despair on this issue if we're always positive and not willing to break the law and not angry about it.
Yeah. So kind of a numbness to the violence of abortion
Yeah.
across America. It's kind of like if there was a concentration camp or something like that in our yard,
Right.
we would just walk by and
Right. Like, let's not be too peaceful about it.
okay.
Yeah. Terrisa, I'm curious, you mentioned these ads. You know, a big reason that you said you're running for Congress is to show these ads. What do you envision these ads to be? Yeah, what is your plan for showing? What will the ads be?
Well, I had some ads that I ran during the 2024 election. I think that they'll be pretty similar to that. But I haven't cut them yet. I'm still taking ideas. So if you have any, please let me know. But ultimately, you know, I'm going to be calling AOC out on being a fake progressive. And I'm going to show the images of the children that I recovered from an abortion center 4 years ago at Dr. Santangelo's clinic in Washington, D.C. And those images are absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, it was earth-shattering for me to see them in real life and to take those pictures. But a picture is worth 1,000 words. I can talk all day about the injustice of abortion, but nothing communicates it quite like seeing a murdered baby on your television screen. And to understand that this isn't justice, that this is not nonviolence, this is not progress. And that's really my goal, is to just force people to look at what they're really supporting and to turn away and to push them not towards me, not towards the pro-life movement, but away from the violence of abortion.
Yeah, to show what's really going on, not just some vague idea or abortion care or something
Right.
like that. Like,
Yeah. Because they don't really think about the reality of it. And often, you know, people say, oh, those images are fake. And it's like, okay, what do you think an abortion looks like, man? Like, seriously, like, think about it for 5 seconds. What do you really think happens to a baby at 30 weeks? It's
So for our viewers that might not be, I'm familiar with your story of recovering these babies. But could you elaborate a little bit more on what these images are of you know, the babies that you recovered?
Yeah. So 4 years ago, my colleague Lauren Handy and Lauren was one of the people who was pardoned by Trump. She was imprisoned for a nonviolent sit-in that she did at this same clinic, but it had occurred 2 years before this discovery. So a lot of people say, oh, she was in prison for finding those babies. That's not true. It had nothing to do with that, other than the fact that they both occurred at the same location. But we always went to Planned Parenthood on Fridays in Washington, D.C. But for some reason, Planned Parenthood was closed that day, so we decided to go to Santangelo's clinic. And 4 months before that, we had gone to Santangelo's. We walked right into the waiting room, and we found a mom there, pregnant, waiting to get an abortion. She was back on her rent. She was facing eviction, and so we helped her we helped connect her with Let Them Live, and they got her $4,000 to pay her back rent. And that's literally all it took to get her to walk out of that abortion center. And so we thought, let's go to Santangelo's again. Let's try to go inside. So when we got there, though, there was a truck parked outside labeled Curtis Bay Medical Waste Services. And, you know, we've been doing this long enough to know what that means, that they're taking out the fetal remains, most likely. And so I walked up to the driver, you know, without even thinking, without even discussing it. And I was just like, do you know what's in these boxes? And he was like, no. And I said, it's dead babies. And I didn't know that for sure, but, you know, I was making a guess. And I said, would you get in trouble if we took one of these boxes? And he said, what would you do with them if you did? And Lauren said, we'll give them a funeral and a burial. And so he said, okay. we took the box back to her apartment, and, you know, we called like 1 million people, lawyers, pathologists, anyone we knew who had ever handled fetal remains before. You know, we're like literally in panic mode. We don't know what we just did or like, you know, what to do now. But we set up a camera, and when we opened the box, there was 115 aborted babies inside. They were 110 of them were packaged in small whirl packs, dated the date that they were aborted and the initials of the parent. But there were 5 other much larger buckets inside, and when we opened them, we saw that they were extremely late term. I had regularly taken a 22-week fetal model with me to activism events to show people how big a 22-week baby looked like. And this first baby we looked at was at least twice that size. And so we knew we were looking at, you know, just a really, really big baby, totally whole, perfectly pink, hair on his head. And it looked like he had just been born alive and left to die because he had no marks on him, and we know right away that we're looking at a possible infanticide case. And then the next baby we saw was Harriet. She was a similar age, and she had a laceration in the back of her skull where her brain had been suctioned out and her skull had been crushed, and her eye had been blown open. So she was just like looking at us, and that is, those are hallmark wounds of a partial birth abortion, which is also a federal crime. So immediately, you know, we are really scared. We don't know what to do. You know, I just remember, well, like wondering, is anybody going to care about this? Like, who's going to care? This happens every day in America, you know, and I feel like I was scared no one would care. And while they still haven't had justice, you know, we ended up giving them to the police for an autopsy, although the press reports that the police found them. And it's like, okay, hilarious, but we gave them to you. But they are literally just still sitting in a morgue there. And the Justice Department, even though, you know, Biden is no longer president and we supposedly have a pro-life DOJ, they haven't investigated these deaths. They haven't gotten a proper burial. You know, I didn't speak about the other 3, but the other 3 were just as precious and devastating to look at. And they're all just like victims of this, not just this horrible man, you know, but this society that just lets this happen. And they deserve justice. And that still has not been had. But I am grateful for all the people that have seen the images. Millions of people around the world have seen them. And, you know, more than 70 members of Congress have signed letters demanding justice for these babies. So it's not like no one cared, you know, it ended up, a lot of people cared a lot. And that has brought me a lot of comfort, but not the kind of comfort that justice would. And yeah, so if your viewers are so inclined, I would urge people to call their members of Congress, let them know that you still want justice for these babies, and call Pam Bondi and tell her to, or not Pam Bondi, but whoever is taken over for her, and the DOJ, and tell them that we want justice for these babies, that it's not too late, and that at the very least they deserve a proper burial.
And Terrisa, that day, that was one box that was removed from many boxes?
There were, the driver had 3. He just loaded one onto a truck, and there was another one on the dolly.
Yeah. So, this is millions of children.
Yeah, literally. Every day in America, that's what's happening.
Terrisa, thank you for sharing that. I know that's probably hard to share every single time you do, but you know, I really hope that our algorithm reaches different people, and I hope that this can reach some new people, and that may have not heard this story before. And yeah, I just thank you for having the courage to do that, you know, to actually investigate what was going on there and advocate for those babies.
Yeah.
Give them a proper burial as well.
I'm so glad that it happened. It's obviously a traumatic experience that, lives on. But I am glad because, some people will say, oh, it was just like a moment and you were able to get all this done. But it wasn't just a moment, it was years of activism that led us to the point where we're like, no, we're going to get one of those boxes, Like how many other sidewalk counselors see those people come and get those boxes every day in abortion centers all over the country and have never asked for the box. And we didn't steal it or anything. We just asked him for it and he gave it to us. Anyone can do it. But I'm glad that we had enough years of experience and enough knowledge about what was probably in there to do what we did.
Terrisa, is there a website that our listeners can go to see, to learn more or to see the images?
Yes, thank you for asking. It is JFOR5.com. That stands for Justice for the 5.com. So it's the letter J, the letter FOR, and the number 5.com.
Okay, we'll share that. And
well, Terrisa, before we head off, I just would love to just know how our listeners can support you and, as you run for Congress. And, what district did you say you're running again in?
District 9.
District 9, New Jersey.
Yeah. I'm still filing my paperwork, so I don't have an official website or anywhere that people can necessarily donate to the campaign yet. But if you are interested and would like to help, because I am going to need help big time in running these ads, please email me. It's just my first name, Terrisa, it's my first initial T and my last name, Bukovinac. That's TBUKOVINAC @gmail.com. And hopefully they can put it on the screen there. Just email me and I'll keep you in the loop. And if you want to support the work of Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising, being a leftist progressive voice in the pro-life movement and really challenging this narrative about what it means to be progressive, please support our organization at PAAUNOW.org.
Mm-hmm. And Terrisa, if elected, when you're in office, what are your actions?
Well, my campaign is not a winnable campaign. I'm not trying to get elected. It's literally I'm an activist. I'm not a politician. I'm not looking to serve as a political talking head. I am here to literally get things done by being an activist and to run these ads and to disrupt pro-abortion campaigns.
Okay. And you said the children you found in the box, you said their bodies are in the morgue right now?
Yep, they're at the Washington, D.C. Medical Examiner's Office.
Okay. And then what do you hope for them?
We want an autopsy. We want an investigation. We want public hearings, accountability for their killer, Cesare Santangelo, and a proper burial and funeral.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will pray for justice and also work. So faith and action. So, wow, this was a really powerful episode, Terrisa. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. And best of luck in your campaign efforts and getting signatures and everything. That's great. So,
Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to come on the pod.
What does the summer?
My pleasure.
Sorry. What does the summer look like ahead for you? And
well, it's going to be working on the campaign, raising money to run the ads, cutting the ads, and also finding ways that Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising can be a voice in the midterms. We're going to be continuing to mobilize activists in key districts across the country. And I'm also working on a documentary about the violence of abortion from a secular and leftist point of view.
Wow.
Oh,
Very
wow.
interesting.
Do you have a title for the doc, or is still in progress?
Yeah, I'm calling it One of Us.
One of Us.
That's awesome.
That,
Very
that,
cool.
That the aborted child is one of us. Is that
Yeah.
word? Okay.
Cool. Well, you have to keep us posted on that once
I will.
once it comes out. So we'd love to share that with our viewers as well. So maybe we'll have you come back and talk about the documentary.
Yeah, I'd love to.
So
I think this is our first podcast episode with a car view. It's kind of cinematic.
Yeah, sorry. It's a little, we're on the go all the time. But
Yeah.
I get it. I get the activist life. I just worked for, I no longer work for them, but I used to work for Students for Life. So I understand the
Oh, yeah.
always being
Yeah.
on the go.
Always on the road. You got stuff to do, babies to save, and people to yell at.
That's good.
All right. Well,
All right,
thank you so
awesome.
much, Terrisa. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon. But all right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week.
Thank
We'll see
you.
you next week.
Bye, everybody. Ever
Bye.
living.
Thank you for listening to the Ever Living podcast, a podcast by New Hampshire Right-to-Life, New Hampshire's oldest and most active pro-life organization. You can learn more about our work and learn how to get involved at www.nhrtl.org. If you would like to donate to our mission, you can make a donation at www.nhrtl.org/donate. See you next week. May God bless you and be very near to you, and may you be ever living.